And I apologize, we just crashed for a moment. Yeah, Big Brother interference, probably. All right. Bob, again, what this whole financial collapse, everybody's saying we're going to look at a financial collapse. If it's happening in Spain, if it's happening in Greece, if it's happening in Ireland, is it happening here? We got 1 million people homeless in America, newly homeless this last year. Everybody's having financial problems. Everybody. What do we have to look forward here? What do we have to look forward to here in this country, in America?
Not an awful lot. The problem is being taken advantage of by the powers behind government to implement a virtual police state. And they keep on passing laws and that nobody knows anything about. And when they think they can't pass law, then they use an executive order. The experiences of the past primary elections in the Republican Party are a good example of where our nation has gone to. Every one of those votes was rigged. And Americans know it, and they don't say anything. But you hear it on alternative radio as well as by newsletter writers. I mean, just last week, actually, it was a long ago. It was a few weeks ago. The Senate, in their federal highway bill, stuck a little beauty in there. That's Senate Bill 1813, the Bill 1813, sponsored by Barbara Boxer of Los Angeles, the senator. And it passed 74-22. And now it goes to the House where it'll have to have a harder time. Why am I pointing this out? It's about highways.
It's about what?
It's about highways and fixing them up. But it also includes a provision that would allow for the revocation of denial of a passport for anyone with certain unpaid taxes or tax delinquency. And that bill will probably pass. Anyone who owes more than $50,000 to the IRS can't get out of the country. Once you're outside, you can't get back in again.
You know, that's kind of interesting, because I've said that this wall they built between the United States and Mexico wasn't to keep the Mexicans out; it was to keep the Americans in.
And I agree with that, and this, in a way, proves it. They're just telling you everything that you can do within your life experience. And with the unemployment where it is, it's not improving. There is no recovery. And the next step will be more unemployment, and the step after that will include very high inflation and probably include demonstrations. And that probably will lead, if history is any guide, to a revolution in the United States.
Are they trying to provoke this revolution in the United States? And who's going to be doing the revolting here? What are we talking about? All the illegals that are here. We've got millions of them here. That's an invasion force, isn't it?
Well, it is, but the revolutionary forces will be individuals who have reached the end of the line. They don't have anything left. You know, with the exception of assault weapons. And they're just going to go berserk. And they'll find other people who agree with them and all of a sudden they got 100. And there's a demonstration down on E Street, and one of these overzealous members of law enforcement shoots somebody, and they die. And the next step is these revolutionaries are going to move in and kill them all.
They've already set the stage here with this NDAA, this National Defense Act, to basically suspend posse comitatus, and they're planning on using the troops against the American people. They're expecting us to rebel on this, aren't they?
Yes, but their hold on the military, I think, is tenuous. I speak to a lot of military people, retired as well as active service. They all know what's going on. They understand it. And probably because of the broadcast I've been doing for almost 8 years with the Marine Disquisition. That goes all over the world. Millions and millions and millions of people hear it, especially in the U.S. military, because it's pointed towards them. And so what we talk about here, they understand there already. This time around, they have a lot of people who are leaving the service because their enlistments are up. And they're going to be very, very hard to replace, as bad as the situation is in the economy. In fact, it's got to a point where our government calls the military, their protectors, terrorists. And I think the best thing for the country would be a military coup. And it wouldn't be bloody. At least I don't think so.
There is rumors out there. There's rumors out there, Bob, that the military is planning on doing that. They're announcing that they're going to do a roundup, and it isn't supposed to be of the people. It's supposed to be of the bankers and the people on Wall Street. And a lot of them are like quitting their jobs and leaving the country, aren't they?
Well, some of them are. You know, there's a large amount of people live in the country because they can't handle it. It takes a certain individual to survive in another country. And so that's a factor, but it's a minor factor. The military is not going to have to be given orders to do something that's illegal and then refuse, because they are illegal orders. And I think what's going to happen is that would be the perfect time to get ready for a coup. And I think it's coming. And better our military than somebody else.
What about the Obama birth certificate scenario? Now, Sheriff Joe Arpaio up in Phoenix has come out and said it's a forgery, you know, and so that means every executive order that Obama signed is basically negated or should be. Yes. And what is the situation on that?
Well, I think they try to kill Joe. And they've already started legal action to get him out of his position. And I don't think they're going to be successful. He's one tough old bird. And, you know, you got to think of it from the situation from the perspective of the people who are pulling the strings. I mean, every one of these things we do that causes them problems is another impediment for them to go ahead and do martial law or the things that they want to do to enforce martial law or a complete control of society. And that's what they're trying to do.
they're talking a lot about Agenda 21. Could you kind of paint a picture of that? That's happening in local. They're inserting this whole UN Agenda 21 into little local committees and in counties and states, really infiltrating. What do you know about that, Bob?
Well, I know it started back in the early 60s, and they're finally moving on it under the aegis of the UN. They did the same thing. If you remember the statement on answering a committee, Leon Panetta said, we don't take our orders for war from the President of the United States. We take them from the UN. Now that's a revelation in itself. They're telling you that you as a sovereign nation have nothing to say about whether we go to war or not.
UN was set up.
Agenda 21.
I'm sorry. The UN was set up by communists. It's still communist, and we're supporting we're supporting the whole world. Pretty much 150 countries we're giving foreign aid to, aren't we? Isn't that just? And these are all countries that are controlled by the IMF.
Yes.
So we're financing the whole New World Order. We are the New World Order, aren't we? The United States.
We certainly are. That's correct.
And the only thing would screw them up if the military, well, when a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. The farmers first, and they did that to us in the 30s when they stripped us of hemp. The second, they go after the intelligentsia. That's anyone that's smart enough to know what they're doing, and that's why you live in another country, isn't it?
Certainly.
And third, they go after the veterans and the law enforcement that are loyal to the old regime. And isn't that what they're doing now? They're trying to demonize veterans, returning veterans. If the veterans, and I've had Gordon Duff on from the Veterans Organization, if they understand we took an oath to the Constitution, not to the President, not to, we don't have to obey illegal orders. If the military just honors their oath, these bankers are screwed.
I don't think they will accede to the federal government. All these people in think tanks and foundations and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, they all think they're going to get away with it. But I don't think they are. And when they lose, they're going to be very unhappy about the results.
Is that why the Bush family is buying acreage in Paraguay?
They already bought it a few years ago.
Yes.
Vast expanse. And it's great for farming. They have precious and base metals there. It's landlocked, so it is a problem. And I'm sure that they have their skeleton force there. Probably about 200 military people, or people like them, probably mercenaries. And they are probably all primed when they get close to what's going to happen. It's going to happen. That family will be long gone to Paraguay. And instead of being 200 troops there, there'll probably be 5,000 with all of the modern weapons that they need.
Somebody in the chat room is asking, what should we invest in? Gold, food, lead, or does it matter at all?
It matters. I always notice the people, how long they live. If you have a shortage of food and water, you get a problem. And you can solve that by buying freeze-dried and hydro. Well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. That holds you for a little while.
And also have a good water filter. And plenty of assault weapons. 10 clips, 10 30-shot clips to each weapon. A minimum of 1,000 rounds for each weapon. That's where you start. That's your insurance policy. And whoever it may be that is threatening you, they may kill you. But some of the people with them are going to die as well. And I think, there's a lot of people who have been working for years for this to happen. And once it happens, there'll be no stopping it. I mean, if you work for the federal government in enforcement capacity, you're virtually guaranteed getting killed.
Now let's talk about that for just a moment.
I've had a number of retiring police officers contact me. What do I do? And they've offered me a job. I said, well, if you want to kill Americans, go take the job. And if you want to live, try to get a job with one of the district attorney's offices doing investigation and things like that. That's what my nephew did, because they told him to do it. And that will, keep you going for the time being. But you've got to get those basics in. They're very, very important.
They are setting the police up, the SWAT teams and everything. Those are designed to kill people. This is all the militarization of the police. So they're...
Well, you got to look at it this way. You get 50 SWAT people, and you got 2,000 American citizens. Would you really want to take the risk of having a battle with the 2,000 non-SWAT members? I don't think so. 40% minimum will be veterans who have been in combat. And they know exactly what to do. So, local law enforcement, I don't care what they've got. They can do anything they want. These Barrett rifles are a good example. You can take out armed personnel carriers with it. You can kill people at 2,000 yards.
They are trying to control. The ninth plank on the Communist Manifesto is corporate farms. So we've got Archer Daniels Midland and Monsanto actually putting out food that will kill you, that rats won't eat. I mean, this genetically modified corn, or they've already got the rat poison in it, don't they? Isn't that, and in Colorado, you're not even allowed to put a rain barrel under your house. You got to let the water run down the street and into the lake down the road. So they're trying to control the food and water, and they're going after independent farmers in this country now. And they've been doing that for about 100 years, haven't they?
They have it. They think this is the final act where they can take it all over. And I think they'll make their inroads, but I think you're going to find that events are going to happen. Things are going to change. It's going to get bloody. And Americans either didn't care or didn't want to stop this, so they're going to have to pay for it.
Well, a friend of mine, John Trockman, who started the militia in Montana, he just kind of quit. He said they wouldn't support us when we were doing this, when we were trying to tell them what FEMA was going to become, what NAFTA was going to become. They wouldn't support us then, they won't support us now. To hell with them. They're going to get the government they deserve. And that seems to be what's happening. Have Americans have they been programmed? I mean, they don't call television programming for nothing, Bob. Have they been programming to be docile? Have they been drugged? I mean, Americans are the most drugged people in the country, and we're talking about pharmaceuticals, not heroin or cocaine. And I think it's deliberate. I think it's absolutely deliberate.
I think you're right. And the television is a propaganda piece. And it's no more complicated than that. That is what it is. And the people don't know they've been brainwashed.
It seems what I used to talk about seems to have been even put out in the mainstream. Every now and then I hear a CNN reporter actually get close to the truth. Are we making progress with the kind of information that you're getting out?
Oh, yeah. From all over the world. And again, people realize, at least half of them, that they're being brainwashed. And I think they just don't know what to do because there's no organized place they can go to start a revolution.
Repeat that?
And
repeat that, Bob?
The people, about half of them, knows what's going on. And I think many of them would like to become involved in things that are anti-government because of the bills they passed and the executive orders. Well, that's not going to change anything. And because there are no visual groups that they can go to, because they're all infiltrated. And so the only thing people can do is, when they reach their wit's end, along with their neighbors, is get together and form their own private armies.
Well, let me ask you about my plan. I mean, what I tried to come up with a defense, a positive way to oppose this, and the only thing I could come up with is restoring the self-sufficient family farm, pumping your own water out of the ground, growing your own food, and generating your own electricity from the technology we've got today that they hadn't had for 6,000 years. And that was called Liberty Villages, libertyvillages.org. And a lot of people are doing that around the country, but I saw this as having, veterans there to protect it. Because we've got homeless veterans in this country. That's amazing to me. And what about that? I mean, if we grow our own food and provide our own energy, what do we need the government or the bankers for?
Well, I'm not going to let you do that. They'll pass an executive order, and they'll say you can't do that anymore.
I've had that a lot. People say, well, we can't do that. I said, you can do it in your neighborhood. If you just dug up your backyard and put solar, the neighborhood association won't allow that. And Obama's like passing executive orders to take over rural areas.
I saw.
Is it any different is there any kind of, are you getting any kind of organized resistance? You said the people don't have anywhere to go. Now, there's a lot of different groups that are trying to form different patriot groups, different organizations over here, but they're not united. They're all competing for advertising dollars or something, and there's no kind of unity. Matter of fact, I was just talking before the show started. I was talking to a gentleman who will be on next week about a Patriot Unity Coalition that divided in two because the people in the Patriot Unity Coalition were so fighting amongst themselves they couldn't reach an agreement. So they split off and started two groups, and then started bad-mouthing each other. I mean, my God, how can we fight if we can't even organize to do something constructive? Is it something? Is that something in the water? Is that programming, or are people just crazy now, Bob?
Well, that's perennial. You know, I was in that venue previously, and I know what to expect. Conservatives and people like that, they might like each other. They might agree on 90% of the subjects, but there's always going to be discord, and they can't seem to settle it amicably. And that's the history of the right-wing movements.
Let me ask you, hold on.